Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today I want to talk about using found papers in your illustrated journals or art journals. I just got back from Italy, from Bologna, and before I left, I showed a video where I made this blank art journal to use as a sketchbook diary. I thought by now I might have a flip through to show you, but oops, not quite. I have done quite a bit of work in here, but the thing about keeping a travel diary is that sometimes you're so busy living your life and making your memories, showing up and being present, that you get behind on getting that all down in the book. That is okay. That means you're doing it right. So stick with me today. I'm going to show you and talk to you about using found papers in your travel diary or in your everyday to-day life illustrated journal. If you like journal arts, altered books, vintage books, paper, and other ephemera, please subscribe to my YouTube channel and be sure and turn on the notifications, and you will have more of them in your life. Let's go look at found papers. When I say found papers, I mean things that you find all around you. When I started making visual diaries about 20 years ago, I could not draw a stick figure cat. I'm not even kidding. But however, I could glue with the best of them. And I knew that I wanted to keep an illustrated journal. So I started looking around me, and I found, before I knew it, I had a stash. I found maps from road trips. I found paper menus, business cards, greeting cards, bits of old calendars, stuff that I had printed up, and also just brochures and pamphlets and whatnot. If you go to your local library, they probably have a table of events coming up in your community, and there's going to be a ton of pamphlets. So I started out just by finding papers and then tearing them, cutting them, gluing them into the book, and writing some words about them. Little by little, I got bolder and I added mark making. It's a fancy way of saying doodling. I started doodling, and then one day I started drawing stuff that looked like the stuff I was drawing. But that took about 3 or 4 years. So again, let's talk about how you can use found papers, even if you can't draw or you think you can't. These are from my trip to Italy, but again, you can find these anywhere in your day-to-day life. Except for the postcards, these were all free. I just, again, looked on tables and stuff as I was walking around. And now I have this big old stash. I'm just going to start at the beginning, start working through it, and brainstorm different ways that you could use these. I really like adding maps to my books. It can be somewhere that you're traveling. It could also be your favorite walk in your neighborhood, where you like to walk your dog, your garden, what have you. In this case, this is a paper map that I got at the tourist center. It was free. And this is where I was staying. This is the train station. So walk, 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 walk. And then this is where the churches are. Church, 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 church. Gelato. Just where you see that, just imagine that's a big old lump of gelato. So what I've done is I've drawn a simplified version of that here. Train. And now I'm going to add the details of walking and churches and gelato. So one of the things I'm going to do with this found paper to start with is just, before I forget, I can remember the place names, and then I'm going to make arrows showing which way I went and stuff day to day. Now I can go in and add, I'm going to make arrows and add details about where I did my shopping, my favorite cafe, and things like this. And you'll be able to see more of that when it's finished and I do the flip through. Over here is a nice big empty space. This is a paper placemat from a restaurant that I really liked. It was just so, the visuals, the colors just really popped, and I was happy that day. So I'm going to trim this so that it fits this piece of paper and add a background. When I'm making altered books and proper art journals, I use gel medium as a glue, but when I'm on the road, I use a glue stick, and I love Yoo-hoo. I have friends who are journal makers who don't care for it, but I like it so much that I buy it in bulk. Literally. I go through a lot of it. Now, okay, that's already a pretty charming layout. I could just stop there, but I'm going to put something on top of that. This is from a free brochure. It's a museum that I visited, and it was of about painters such as Ter Brueggen, who worked in a style of Caravaggio, as they did back then. And this is a painting that was in the exhibition called The Calling of Matthew. And I like that it's done in this medieval style rather than the traditional New Testament style. It's too big for the format of my book, so I could just put him in like that. And now we've got more of an art journal page that's also a memory. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to take my glue stick and add that in. A few minutes ago, I mentioned adding mark making to glued elements to help start to get a little bit bolder visually and working into the page. I'm doing that here. I have a water-soluble pencil. This one is by Derwent. It's one of the graphy tints. You could use any water-soluble pencil that you have, or even a soft pastel or charcoal. Now I've got my water brush here. I'm just going to activate that just a little, so that I'm pulling that dark color now out into the page, and I'm just softening that up a little, see, by pulling that color out into the sheet. You don't have to do this. It's just going to add a little bit of layer and texture and interest to the page. I accumulate a lot of postcards, especially when I'm traveling. I sometimes print up my photographs when I get home, and I more often forget to do that. So if I'm picking up postcards as I go along, I've got some memories, and then I also have some points of reference if I want to do some drawing when I get home. Now, I showed when I was making this book how to make this pocket from an old business letter. And now you've got a little bit of that peeking through. here are some postcards that my traveling companion, hey Matthew, had made. When we're traveling, he takes photographs and then has them made into postcards. And he sent these to my husband while we were still in Italy. That's me posing in a church. Now, because this has a message from Matthew on the back, I certainly don't want to just glue this down. So I'm going to make a different kind of a pocket now. This is from a chapel and a museum that I went to in Padua. And that's just the name of the museum complex. This is not a very sexy card envelope, but it was, part of the museum where I was. So I think I'm going to go ahead and use this found paper, this old envelope from the museum gift shop, and turn it into a kind of a tuck spot. I'm just going to tear that on the diagonal. So I'm going to measure that. It's about there and about there. And I'm not going to make a whole pocket. Instead, I'm going to tear this to the diagonal. And now it's a little less overwhelming with the blankness if I glued this down here. That's glued down, so it's kind of like a tuck spot plus. That's going to give it the little more reinforcement. There's still a lot of blank space here that I'm not completely happy with, especially when I have so much paper to use. So this is a scrap of a train ticket. The train ticket itself was weirdly big, and I just tore off the journey, Ravenna to Bologna Central. So that's the memory. It's got the date on there. So you know what? I'm just going to add that here. So it's going to fill up some of the space and also add some memory. This is a bit of a paper napkin at an ice cream shop or a coffee shop. Boy, coffee in Italy is like a different food from anything I've ever had. So I enjoyed that. And then the paper napkin is so thin, I just tore off everything except the name of the cafe. And now when I glue that down, it's pretty transparent and looks fun. And again, now we've got quite a bit of memory on this part of the page, and I can then add postcards. And if I want to read that message, I can just take those out. They're not stuck down. A few more words about postcards. Some of these I got with the clear idea. This one I'm going to actually draw this image from a mosaic in Ravenna. I'm going to actually draw this into the book as one of my memories. I'm also going to draw these mosaic star amulet things. And I'm really happy I got this because not only am I going to add them to this journal, I'm going to start putting them in other pieces. They're so beautiful. So I've got this now as a frame of reference. I am going to draw these, but I think that I'm also going to go ahead and add them to my book. So here I've made another pocket. This is the pocket that the postcards came in when I bought them. And I just trimmed it, hand tore it, and then glued it down, and now I have a pocket for a couple of other postcards. I can take them out and put them back in. I like the way that the blue here picks up the blue in the cards and the contrasting blue of the sky. Before I forget, I want to point out that I have leftover really pretty scraps here. I am not recycling them. I am not throwing them away. I am going to put them in a different stash. In a few days, I'm going to be talking about how you can make a paper fodder stash for art journals and collage and whatnot. And bits and bobs like this are very precious. So don't just throw stuff away. Are you nuts? Free art supplies. Here I have another pocket, or I'm going to make another pocket. This is, again, this is a church that I visited in Bologna. And when I bought a couple of holy cards, they came in this adorable little envelope. So here are some holy cards that I got in churches that I visited. Some of them may turn up in an art journal later, but for the time being, this is actually a ticket to a museum. So it's a nice ticket size as well. Right now, they're going to live in this book. I very much like the image of the church and how it's got those sepia colors that are over here, but it's too big. So I'm just going to rough tear that. I could also rough tear that to the angle if I wanted. We'll start here. When I glue pieces down, I often try to leave as much room as possible for writing, text, details, stuff. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and just put this front and center at the bottom of the page. Still got a lot of that messy. I dyed this paper with avocado pit dye, and you've got the pretty pink, messy, and now I can put my cards in here. If I wanted to put that one on top, again, it's going to pick up these colors. Same thing there. And now I've got this nice little place. So instead of having my small cards and tickets in a shoebox, you know the one I mean, now they're in this nice little pocket where I can not glue them down. I can just take them out and play with them and make memories. What I probably will do when I'm drawing off camera is add some mark making. You'll see that on the flip through. Here's another paper napkin. Seriously, you can just see how kind of flimsy that is. But it's got the name of the cafe and this adorable coffee cup. So again, I'm just gonna, I think I'm just gonna add that here. Yeah, this is torn from a free brochure about the mosaics, and just glued that down, and now I can put this here. Take up some space. Yeah, we've got a little bit of a collage art journal thing there. And some memories. Over here, yep, I have I am drawing some churches. My church drawing is getting better. My messy church drawing. I'll talk about messy church drawing, messy architecture drawing soon, using some forgiving techniques. This one I'm definitely going to draw. That's why I bought the postcards, so I can sit down with a cup of tea in my nice warm living room and draw that. But let's say you're not there yet. You're not comfortable drawing architecture and buildings and whatnot. This is again, from a free brochure, the Cathedral of Modena. And I just fussy cut that out of this sorry about that, of this free brochure. And now I can glue this here. It's going to pick up the gray of the stone color here, which are details of capitals that I actually drew in the Cathedral of Modena. So that will suit well. I'm going to cut that down so it'll fit in perfectly and glue that over there. And that's going to leave me room for lots of text to write. I also have this lettering from that free brochure. And I could use these as well, just to, again, to add to the art journal feel, or if you're not comfortable lettering, you could go down here. Thought about that. Or up here. Or here. We'll see. I do think that what I'm going to do is add a box. Even before I've added my lettering. A box really helps add some focus to a page. So I'm just taking a slightly thicker tipped pen, and I'm having the line break over here where my column is. That's going to add a little consistency to the eye. Now that looks a little bit more like a photograph, a little bit tidier. And this is where I'm going to add my text about what I saw when I was in this church. Ravenna is a town that is not far from Bologna, and it is filled with churches and mosaics from the 5th and 6th century. Lots of them. It was astounding. Really a lot to think about and take in. So much so that when I start writing about my memories of the 2 days that I spent in Ravenna, I'm going to use this as a little cheat sheet. Again, it's a free brochure, and these are all of the churches that I visited. And I'm just going to cut these little thingies out and make them into thumbnails like this. Now I can arrange these on the page, maybe like that, and then write some text here and here and here. I'll have to play around with that, but the idea is I'll just have these tiny little thumbnails, and then I can do some lettering, and maybe even plot out a map of how I went that day. A lot you can do with those little thumbnails. I have plenty more found papers to work with, but that will do for now. I hope that this has given you some ideas about how either instead of drawing or in addition to drawing, you can start working in your own book, adding your memories, just using found papers. If you have any questions or any feedback, please let me know in the comments below. I do love to compare notes. Join me in a few days. I'm going to have a proper flip through after I've added some more drawing and mark making. And until then, happy making.